Happy New Year. Oops. Welcome and Happy New Year, everyone. Um, I'm glad everyone can be here, but before we get started, I wanted to introduce Yesenia Cuevas. She will be doing our Spanish interpretation.
Thank you, Dee. Buenas tardes, gracias por acompañarnos. Feliz Año Nuevo. Si usted necesita interpretación en español, por favor mire el globo que aparece en la parte inferior de su pantalla, oprima el globo y lo va a transferir y elija el idioma español. Gracias.
Thank you, Yesenia. We are here today because we are in preparation for an election that is extremely crucial. Everything we are fighting for to improve and protect Social Security, Medicare is all it's all in the hands of this election and how it swings. And so that's why we are here today. Before in prior elections, we never had members that are presidential candidates to speak up and say that one of their targets is to privatize Social Security and to and Medicare. So extremely important. And so in our efforts today, you are going to hear from our Mr. Bowser about the importance of this election and especially why California is so critical. Dwayne Camp, our executive director now, will explain the Senior Votes program. And we will hear from some of our leaders in our target districts about what this election means to them. Then Jody will take us through our senior vote plan and timeline. And then we will end with an urgent call to sign up for the Senior Vote Ambassador program. And then we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. So hopefully you are ready. Yesenia, you are good? Okay, so with that, I'm going to introduce John Bauman, also known as the Bowzer, the lead singer for the Sha-Na-Na, president of the Social Security Works, PAC. Take it away, John.
All right, thanks, Dee. Yes, and I really am mainly here in my capacity as president of Social Security Works PAC. I think a lot of you know that by now. We'll get into it a little more clearly. But many of you do know me as Bowzer, formerly of the rock group and TV series Sha-Na-Na. And if you know me as Bowzer, you'll understand why I'm going to say that in November of 2024, we have got to make sure that we elect people who are going to be good on the issues of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and drug prices. And if we do so, we're going to spend that election night doing this. Because can you believe that I have been making a living now for over 54 years? Actually, I'm not really making a living at it anymore. I'm kind of retired like you guys, but I'm here in Connecticut to do one of my final shows. But can you believe I've been making a living for all that time doing this? God bless America. But here in my dotage, I'm 76 years old. I really am devoting way more of my time to making sure that we are going to leave behind to our kids and our grandkids a country that still functions, a country we can be proud of, a country where people can retire with dignity and independence. And honestly, at this point in 2024, a country that doesn't resemble Russia or even worse. We were just discussing before we came on our habit of saying that this is the most important election of our lives. We've probably done it too often, but we didn't realize that this one was coming up. Because by every measure of my 76 years, and I think we all agree on this at this point, this is the most important election of our lives. This is an election where everything is on the line. Democracy itself is on the line in a way that it never has been before. And that includes, the Nixon era, where ultimately Nixon was, in the final analysis, an institutionalist who, in the sense that he wasn't trying to destroy the institutions, of our great country, like the probable presidential candidate, we all know who we're talking about, appears to be doing today. And don't deceive yourself into thinking that that guy is going to be good on any of the issues that we care about either. He pulled that same stunt in 2016, and it turned out that they tried as hard as they could to cut Social Security, to cut Medicare, just couldn't get it done, couldn't really get anything done except for the real platform, which is that tax cut for the top 1%, the only thing that's really on the agenda. It's already been said, and it's true that people have come out, candidates have come out and said the weirdest things about Social Security and Medicare that we've ever heard. I mean, even more extreme than before. Rick Scott came out with this cockeyed plan, last year to why don't we just sunset those programs after 5 years? I mean, we could talk about this for the entire hour, how really, truly extreme the proposals to decimate the programs that we all need and that we all care about and that the country needs. Because always remember that before Medicare was passed in 1935, over 50%, before Medicare was passed, over 35% of American seniors had incomes below the poverty line. 1965, I may have misspoke. Somebody was talking in the background. But let me say that more clearly again. Before Medicare was passed in 1965, over 35% of American seniors had incomes below the poverty line. And also internalize that before Social Security was passed in 1935, more than 50% of American seniors, more than 1 out of every 2 of us, had incomes below the poverty line. Social Security and Medicare are the 2 most successful domestic programs in the entire history of the United States of America. We need to keep them that way. And in fact, we need to protect and expand them. And before getting into more detail about this election, let me also just say that the current administration has really been great on the programs that we care about, particularly drug prices. The drug price achievement in the first 2 years was really remarkable, especially given that it was not a great Congress. And we need to deliver a better Congress, which is the subject that I'm really going to talk about. But given that it was not a great Congress, especially not a great Senate in those first 2 years, lumbered by people like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who were only going to let as little as they possibly could go by because they were being funded in large part by Big Pharma. It is remarkable that Medicare, for the first time ever, is going to be able to negotiating for lower prices on, yes, a limited amount of prescription drugs, because that's all that could get through, given the 2 people that I'm talking about, and the filibuster, which they wouldn't destroy. But it's a great big foot in the door that's never happened before in American history. Medicare is negotiating. I'm proud to say also that this is 2024, so now I can say next year, you will not pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter what your needs are, for your prescription drugs. You are capped at $2,000 a year. That is a tremendous achievement of this administration. And like I say, with not that great a Congress. So let's get to the point that really needs to be made, which is that we need to not only send these people back to the White House, but we need to deliver a better Congress. And California, which sometimes we all know as Californians, sometimes we're not really in play in presidential elections. Obviously, we should be. It's a lot of votes, but our electoral college votes, we probably know which way they're going to go. But we are so in play in this election, especially in the House of Representatives. You are now listening to somebody, not to toot my own horn as a strategist, but I am one of the very few people who said out loud all the time during the 2022 cycle, like, there is not going to be some kind of a red wave. What are you even talking about? I understand history, but I went on the ground to 35 different elections nationwide, all the toughest swing ones. And I always do that. I went to 57 in 2018, which was the most I'll ever do, because I'm getting older. But I can tell you, I knew the entire time that somebody was going to end up with a tiny majority in the House. And it was either going to be Democrats or Republicans. It was either going to be people who were going to be good on senior issues or people who are going to be horrible on senior issues. And, we didn't do as well as we needed to do in California. We need to do better. And the other place, obviously, was New York. But with a tiny shift, with a minuscule shift, and by the way, this majority is down to 2 seats right now. And it's going to shift. It's going to change a little bit during the year because of weird retirements and people disappearing and probably even, people dying off who are in Congress. We don't know how that's going to turn out, but it is a very, very slim majority that cannot get very much done, which is good. We don't want this majority to be doing anything because anything they do is going to be bad for us. So I cannot emphasize enough. There are no words to emphasize enough how important every one of these swing California seats in the House really are. They're going to make the difference. Right now, as we speak, the majority is 2. There are at least 7 seats in California, 7 or 8, really, at least at this moment, that are in play in a way that they could go either way. It's going to depend on our effort, and it's going to depend on how seriously we take not only the overall election, but our role in it in California. Yes, we have to maintain the Senate seat that Dianne Feinstein has vacated. That is true, and that is important, but it's also highly likely that we're going to have a good ally in that Senate seat. It's a bruising primary that it makes me heartsick to even think about, because it means we're going to lose a tremendous, at least 2 terrific members of Congress who have been great on our issues. But I'm not going to go into the details of what seats we need to get, even though I know what they are. But Dwayne is going to do that when I throw it over to him, and go over why these were chosen by CARA to be the seats that are focused on. And there are good reasons for all of that. So I'm all in with you guys as president of Social Security Works PAC. And we do get to endorse, which is a good thing, at Social Security Works PAC, but we won't discuss that on this particular Zoom. But we're going to be all in with you, fighting, I guarantee you, for the same seats, because it's pretty obvious to everybody, where the problems are and which seats we can win in California, which seats we must win in California, and why California is going to be, along with New York, are going to be the makers of the majority in 2025 that is going to enable us to move forward on protecting and expanding Social Security, forward on protecting and expanding Medicare, forward on lowering drug prices, forward on spreading Medicaid to the very few states, by the way, now. Some of these red states have been sneaking it in, just trying to sneak it in there. Let's get the Medicaid money and get our people covered, even though they claim that they're against it. The other side of this problem has been bleeding seats. And one of the final points that I want to make to you, because it's really germane and it's stuff that we at Social Security Works work on and struggle with all the time, is like, what's currently on the agenda? Because the majority has gotten slimmer in the House of Representatives, their real plan, which was to shut down the government, we already got through the default fight. But the plan right now, January 19th, they're still trying to shut down the government. And as part of their government shutdown deal, they're still fighting for a commission called the Debt Commission, the entire purpose of which is to cut Social Security and Medicare. They're lying to everybody, saying that Social Security is the biggest driver of the debt, which is a complete lie. Even Ronald Reagan said out loud that Social Security does not add 1 penny to the deficit because it's not even on the federal budget. So it's just a lie, but lies told over and over and over again somehow get into people's brains and they think they're true. Very recently, Mike Johnson, who was certainly not an ally on our issues by any means, made a deal with Chuck Schumer without this debt commission in it. We've been watching like hawks for this debt commission because if it gets through, we're going to have to fight it collectively the entire time. But so far, so good. And the reason it's not getting through so far, it could still, this could still come about. So keep an eye on it. But the reason it's not getting through so far is because they don't have enough of a majority to push it through. And that's our role. Our role is to eliminate that majority altogether. They're after these programs. We have nothing to do but to defeat them. This is all about the most important election of our lives, November 2024. We all need to be all in, and we all need to make sure that we put into office people who will bum 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 dang a dang dang a ding a dong ding, protect Social Security and Medicare. Phew. Okay, so I hope I've made that point pretty clearly, that it really is, all kidding aside, guys, and all bowzering aside, it's going to be all about California. It's New York and California all the way in the House of Representatives, and we've got to take our role really, really seriously. So let me turn it over to Dwayne Camp, who will now tell you about the districts that have been chosen, which are all tough, tight, swing districts in which CARA has tremendous strength, a lot of volunteers, and will make an invaluable contribution to flipping the House in November of 2024. Dwayne, take it away.
Well, thank you, Bowzer, for that incredible introduction, and welcome, everybody. Well, Happy New Year. I know we are, 12 days in, but it's really good to be joined by all of you. I know we have some returning senior ambassadors, senior vote ambassadors from 2022 and all of our great work. But welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here. My name is Dwayne, for those of you who haven't got to know me just yet. And I'm very excited to sort of take you through our selection process. Our senior vote campaign is targeting really 5. So Bowzer mentioned that in California, we are, I guess, burdened with a tremendous opportunity to help take back Congress, right? And even though I have to say at the front, CARA, we do not endorse candidates for elected office. However, our parent affiliate, the Alliance for Retired Americans, do. And so I'll be taking you through actually some of the scores that the ARA has for some of the incumbents in the districts that we're targeting. And again, these are issues just like Bowzer mentioned around protecting our earned benefits, Social Security, Medicare, et cetera. But this forum is really about introducing our senior vote campaign for 2024 and taking advantage of that tremendous opportunity that has fallen to California. So there are 5 districts, congressional districts, that we're going to be targeting. And so I'll be sharing my screen in a second. And after I go through the presentation, we're actually going to be hearing testimonials from 2 of our members who reside in some of these districts and just why it is so important that CARA engage in this work and reach out to senior voters in these districts. So I will be sharing my screen in a second here. Let's see. There we go. And let's move my stuff around. All right. So our 2024 target races, and again, I'm going to be taking you through our 5 target regions. But first, let's talk about our process. And it's very similar to our work in 2022. It's really a collaborative process, but this year, we've taken it a few steps further, as BOWZER was alluding to. We reviewed pollster data. We reviewed nonpartisan political forecasting, which is just a fancy way of saying finding a way to sort of forecast out, factoring in the projected turnout for the general election, what things may look like. And so we took all of that data, coupled with the input from our members, of course, and all of that was reviewed by our executive committee and our executive board. So again, it was a very thoughtful, methodical, and collaborative process with determining which districts we are going to target. And obviously, again, these districts align with, I think, the 7 or 8 congressional districts in California that are among the national targets that everybody is going to be watching. So I'm going to be introducing a few maybe new terms for folks, and I'm going to take it slow and bring everybody along for the ride. But basically, what was the criteria for the priority races? Well, essentially, they lined up in one of these ways. They are either deemed a toss-up district, they either lean Democratic or are likely Democratic. I'll go over what the differences between each one of those terms are and what that really means for us. And the district boundaries, they have to be within one of our CAT areas, right? That is how we were so successful in 2022. And again, taking that together with the senior voting trends over the last 2 general elections, plus sort of factoring in the composition of the voting electorate this year, right? So not only taking into account the senior voting trends in previous general elections, but what does that look like for this year? Because again, this is the second election cycle in these newly minted districts, right? So now we have a little bit more data to work with. And of course, the race has to be pivotal to the overall balance of power in Congress, which BOWZER had alluded to. So those, again, were really the criteria that we were looking at, again, coupled with all of the input from our partners and our members who live in these districts. So breaking down what John had alluded to, this is essentially what I'm using the Cook report here, which is a sort of like the leading nonpartisan political forecasting summary. So I'm trying not to get too technical here, but wanted to visually take you through sort of what it's looking like right now. So on the right-hand side of your screen, essentially the way the projections are right now, there are 191 seats in Congress that are projecting to be solidly Republican. And on the left-hand side, we have 170 seats that are projected to be solidly Democrat, as in not very competitive for candidates of the other parties. So for California, we have a lot of Democratic districts. The projections will lean into that district staying Democrat and so on and so forth. But where it gets interesting is the more you move towards the center, the colors are, the shading is a little bit lighter. So you have likely, right? And so basically that means that these races aren't considered super competitive, but they have potential to be competitive for various reasons. And I know for a fact on the right-hand side of this bar, on the Republican side, we know that congressional representatives have not had a great track record on just about anything relating to CARA's issues. And then the further towards the center we go, we have the lean. And this is really important. Lean means that these races are considered competitive races, but one party has an advantage, right? That could be based on registration numbers, obviously voting trends from previous elections, what have you. But again, this is where we really want to focus in on the lean districts. And then the toss-up. This is it, right? This is where these are that most competitive races, taking into account all of these various factors. But either party has a shot. That's essentially what the toss-up means. And in California, we have a couple toss-up and a couple lean races that we're going to be talking about here. But before I get into the actual districts that we've chosen, the last term I want to explain, because you're going to see this on the slides, are going to be sort of the PVI. So you're going to see a D+2 or an R+4. What does that mean? Essentially, it means how does this district compare to other districts nationally? So for example, on the right-hand side of your screen, a D+2, for example, means that in 2016 and 2020 presidential elections, that district performed an average of 2 points more Democratic than the nation did as a whole, right? And then R+4, very similar. So that is going to, I'm trying to, trust me, I'm trying to build up the optimism here for some of these races, because you're going to see exactly how this comes into play and just why there is a huge opportunity before us to really take back some seats. So let's start with Central Valley. So Central Valley CAT members, buckle your seatbelts. I know you're ready for this anyway, and you're probably assuming what district we're going to be targeting. But let's start with Congressional District 13, CA13. On the left-hand side of the slide, we have what we tried to pull a really solid district map here. But the incumbent, John Duarte, he took office in 22. But what was interesting about the 2022 midterm, and now we got the same candidates coming back. This is John Duarte, Adam Gray, round 2. If you're a boxing fan, if you're a sports fan like I am, this is exciting, right? But what was very interesting, getting to Bowzer's point again, in 2022, Duarte only won by, I think, less than 1,000 votes. And not only that, but as it relates to our senior vote campaign, over 53% of the voting electorate in this district were over the age of 55. And I believe 30% were over the age of 65. I mean, we're really getting into it here. And then again, on the top right-hand score, the voter index is a D+4 district. That's the projection. It's projected to be a toss-up district. It's going to be very competitive. Obviously, right now, I don't want to get folks to get too caught into the fundraising numbers. This is based off of Q3 last year. It's not updated to the current quarter yet. But obviously, Duarte is at a competitive advantage at about, probably close to 2 mil around this point, if not more. But Adam Gray, former Assembly member in the California State Assembly, this is a rematch from 2022. And again, our Central Valley members, this is a huge opportunity. And we are looking to engage, again, 53% of the voting electorate in the midterms for this district were over the age of 55. Real opportunity for our senior vote campaign to make a difference. So that's the first of 5. Now, sort of Fresno-Kern priority target. No surprise here, I think. District California, District 22, CA22. The incumbent, our favorite, right? David Valadeo. And we'll be hearing from Imelda in a little bit about her experiences living in this district, specifically under David Valadeo. But again, this is a D+5. It's another toss-up projected district. Huge opportunity for us here. And as you can see, highlighted in sort of the light red, our partner, our parent affiliate, the Alliance for Retired American, they do a scorecard, a congressional scorecard every year. And they haven't produced a 2023 scorecard yet, and that's okay. But in 2022, David Valadeo scored a whopping 30% with a lifetime score of 11%. So if you're wondering not only why we are targeting these districts and why these incumbents are so dangerous, not only to democracy, but to our communities, and they're failing to uphold our values as constituents, these scores really put things into perspective for CARA and for the ARA. Again, lifetime score of 11%, that is really hard to earn. Now, in 2022, again, we have a rematch here as well between, well, actually, we have two, the Dem primaries are going to be interesting, but potentially a rematch between Valadao and Rudy Salas. But in 2022, it was so tight that Valadao won by less than 3,000 votes. And again, I think I'll put this out here for all of us. In 2022, this is one of the lowest turnout midterms in the history of California. So imagine if turnout was a little bit better or even on trend. Valadao may have been ousted by Rudy Salas. So again, very close district. Over 52% of the electorate in the midterm were over the age of 55. And again, I think the over 65 numbers for this district is about 26%. That's huge. So again, huge opportunity for us. And in the primary, you have Rudy Salas and Melissa Hurtado, both former representatives in the California legislature. Orange County, get excited, our Orange folks. This is interesting. This is Katie Porter's current seat, Congressional District 47. And despite all of the, I mean, you can see on our slide here, 100% score in 2022 from the ARA and 100% lifetime score from the ARA. I don't think I need to go into the many accomplishments of Katie Porter on behalf of working people and on behalf of seniors specifically in Congress. And obviously she is running for the Senate, but that opens up her congressional seat. And again, this is a lean Dem, so it's not quite, we would have loved for this district to not be competitive for Republicans, but it is. And so right now we have two primary candidates, Dave Min and Jessica Weiss. The fundraising numbers, again, this is not super up to date, but just to provide a snapshot as to where we are in terms of the fundraising. They are neck and neck as of this point, and Scott Baugh, who ran unsuccessfully against Katie Porter in 2022, is back at it again. So 56% of this district who voted in 2022 are over the age of 55. Again, tremendous opportunity here, but we need to defend this seat in particular. Placer County, okay. Placer County is very interesting because the data is going to look a little different than the trend thus far. But for those of you who are uninitiated into Placer County politics, let me just tell you that the incumbent Kevin Kiley is a problem. Not only in his time in Congress, but also as a former assembly member for this very region. And I will leave all those details to Diana Madoshi, who will be presenting soon on her experiences living in the district. But we engaged in a very successful senior vote effort in 2022 in this district. And again, with all of the opportunities that are out there in California, we think there's a real chance to go after this seat because of the excitement around the primary candidate, Jessica Morse, who ran, I believe, in 2016, unsuccessfully at the time, but is a tremendous candidate whose family has deep roots in the district. But here is the opportunity for CARA. Over 61% of the voting electorate in the midterm were over the age of 55, and that number is a whopping 35% over the age of 65. I mean, CARA, this is us. This is our target right here. Now, again, the projection is likely Republicans at R+4 is a very, very, very conservative district. But again, comparing Kevin Kiley's abysmal record on all of our issues really does shed light and give us an opportunity to really work the senior vote campaign and change some hearts and minds in this district. Now, our senior vote campaign, and Jody will talk more about this in a second, not only it's primarily directed towards the congressional districts, but we also have the opportunity to work the state and local races within that jurisdiction. So sticking with Placer County, Assembly District 5, who the incumbent Joe Patterson, he's running for his second term. He replaced Kevin Kiley after he went to Congress. On ours, a spoiler alert, but our 2023 legislator scorecard, which we'll be releasing soon, stay tuned, he scored a whopping 28%. Pretty hard to do considering the amount of bills that we scored this year. A whopping 28%. Again, we won decisively in 2022 with 60%, and again, over 60% of the voting electorate in this district are over the age of 55. So, and again, lots of excitement around, is a typo there, around the Democratic challenger, Neva Parker, as well. So very excited about the opportunities in Placer County, and we will keep it moving. LA, let's get right into it. LA, we are back at it, another 2022 priority district. We are back again. Congressional District 27, CA 27. This is a toss-up. Mike Garcia is, like Kevin Kiley and John Duarte, is a problem, continues to be a problem. The ARA score, again, that's our parent affiliate, 2022 for Mike, 30%, and a lifetime score of 20%. I mean, you really have to work hard to be that bad on these issues. Won decisively in 2022, 53%, but again, over 55% of the voting electorate in 2022 was over the age of 55. And we have a great candidate who's going to be probably leading on the Dem ticket, George Whiteside. So very excited about the opportunity here. And like Placer, we will also be focusing in on Assembly District 40. Again, I'm gonna put that slide back. Look at the map here for District 27. All right, and then look at the map for Assembly District 40. Very, very, very similar. Lots of crossover. And the incumbent is an incredible legislator, somebody who not only has sponsored at least 2 of CARA's bills, but also saw them through and they passed. But what was amazing about this race in 2022, this was a district that the incumbent Pilar Schiavo flipped from Republican to Democrat and won with less than 600 votes difference. So this is a target for Republicans. Right now, she has a competitive advantage in terms of fundraising, but 100% score on our scorecard, considering this was her first year in office, incredibly impressive. But again, the crossover between the two districts, 80-40, and then again, the Congressional District 27, provides a lot of opportunity for us to consolidate our resources and make an impact. And not only that, the other thing that I mentioned is that the composition of these districts are changing. And we have to be aware of that. And that really yields more of an opportunity for us. You see that I was selective with the color here, but 80-40, I colored it purple. It's really leaning more blue, I think, by the day. Same with CD 47, Katie Porter's district. But lots of opportunities here. Hopefully, me breaking down some of this nerdy political jargon, but really the data helps shed some light on just how viable these races are. So I'm going to end my presentation, and I would like to bring on Imelda, who is on our executive board and also lives in District 22, which we had just reviewed. So Imelda, if you could shed some light on why this race is so important, we certainly would appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, what happened? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Imelda. I live in Bakersfield, have lived here for the past 38 years. And let me tell you, it's always been a challenge, a big challenge. We fight every election year. And Dwayne went over some of the statistics. You know, we won, we lost, we won. But again, it's been very, very difficult in our county. We could never get a meeting with Valadeo or McCarthy. And I want to thank all of you who supported us, the whole state, that came out to Bakersfield, against McCarthy and the GOP wanting to cut our Social Security and Medicare. I want to thank you all. There's also folks that came out to seniors to hold protests outside of Republican Valadeo's office sometime in May. And the reason for that is Valadeo voted for the Default Un-American Act, which undermines the Social Security and other essential programs. He voted to cut Social Security and the veterans' benefits. You know, Republican Representative David Valadeo, he makes it harder for seniors and veterans to claim their earned benefits. That he actually closed some of the offices, so it made it even harder. You know, as seniors, we have a difficulty time sometimes calling, getting the voicemail, do this, press that. You know, sometimes we simply just want to go to the office and have a straight conversation, but that's almost impossible in Kern County. Even with McCarthy, we're not talking about McCarthy's race here, but you know, they work hand in hand, and they work against us instead of helping the Americans. They totally work against us. You know, as you know, they want to prioritize Social Security, who puts 70 million Americans at risk, people with disabilities. I can't tell you how difficult it is here. It has always been very difficult. I've walked, I've talked, I've phone banked, for TJ Cox. We were there day and night after the votes were counted. We were there collecting signatures. You know, we won. We won. It was difficult, but it can be done. It can be done. We the last race against when Rudy Salas challenged Valadeo, you know, we didn't lose by that many votes. So it can be done, but it's our responsibility to collectively and proactively build the support and resources necessary to ensure CD22 is a viable community for our aging population. We also need to secure for the rest of California, for the rest of everybody. We must do this together. We must elect representatives that will work for our best interests for seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. I could go on and on and on and on, but I do want to let you know that even though this is CD22, it's going to take all of us. All these critical races that we have before us, it's going to take all of us. I am so excited to be part of CARA. This is going to be my first year working with a senior vote. I've already have a lot of ideas, and I know with all of us, we can put our heads together and help each other. You know, your ideas might work really well in Kern County as well as in your county. But again, we have to do this together. We have to win, this CD22. So I encourage all of you to, let's work together and get the senior vote out to our seniors. You know, not only seniors, but, there's a lot of seniors with younger children, grandkids. We need to involve everybody. It's going to take all of us to win this seat. It's going to take all of us to work collectively if we are going to win this. By voting, citizens are participating in the democratic process. Citizens vote for leaders to represent them and their ideas, and the leaders support the citizen interests. So you are all leaders. We can do this. So please, again, I'm not a very good speaker, but I hope you get the idea that it is very critical for us to win in CD22. We must elect representatives that will represent our best interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Imelda. Got me fired up. I'm ready to go back to Bakersfield, right? So,
Everybody, we need everybody to come back to Bakersfield and help out.
yeah, we might need to stay in Bakersfield for a little while next time. But thank you, Imelda. Diana, it is my pleasure to bring you on the screen and talk to us about your experiences in Congressional District 3 under the wonderful, loving Kevin Kiley. And I'm joking, everybody. He's awful. Go ahead, Diana.
All right. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to state the case for Placer, CD3. I've been involved with CARA. I was involved with the first senior vote campaign. And at that time, we were not a priority, but I had insisted, Dwayne know, all the emails, and we raised some money, and then we did send out postcards to a few of our people, and it made a difference. For many years, CD3, which was formerly CD4, seniors have had congressional representation not committed to protect Social Security, Medicare, and programs that affect people with disability or working families. It has been an ultra-conservative area with a high senior voting population. What has changed for this area is an influx of younger families and retirees from more progressive areas in California and other places. In 2022, CD3 voted to protect women's reproductive choices and candidates for protecting Social Security and Medicare. That increases our chances to win against these particular legislators. Our current legislator, Kevin Kiley, when he was in the assembly, he didn't even know that Social Security is paid from our FICA taxes. And how dumb can that be? Somehow, because of his youth, he has gotten elected, but he is a MAGA. This election is important because democracy on the line, our voting rights on the line, and our Social Security on the line. And this is one time, all times, that we must come together and fight to not send people like Kevin Kiley as representative. This is my statement also. I've also worked from some of our grassroots. Kevin Kiley has also reportedly had been a part of the Jefferson, and the state of Jefferson wanted to remove themselves from California. I mean, cookie stuff. So this person cannot continue to be in our Congress. And he has voted consistently since he has been in with all of Mike Johnson's and the Republican plans for a debt commission. And he has no integrity at all. Anytime that we invited him to come and speak to us from CARA, he only came once, and he never come before to speak with his constituents. And he has some type of bogus senior organization that I could not find any information about who this group is that is saying they support him. And that is because he knows that Social Security is an issue, and Social Security Medicare is on the ballot. And so we as CARA that have the facts, the power, we can defeat him. And we have a wonderful candidate, Jessica Morris, who's very committed to protecting these programs and knows CD3 well. So I urge people that are not in competitive races, that they will help us flip this seat. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Diana. And I know we're running low on time, but I would just want to make the plea for both of these districts as well. I think we should hold a Bakersfield in both of them moving forward. That's just my personal opinion. But we have, again, tremendous opportunities. Hopefully the data helped make that a little bit clearer for folks who may not be familiar with these races, and just how dangerous, as Diana and Imelda have alluded to, these incumbents really are, and their abysmal record on our issues. So thank you again. I'm going to now pass it to Jody, who is going to take us through the steps of our campaign. And Jody, welcome to the forum.
I think before we do that, hi everybody, I'll be right back. But if we can open the lines for Q&A for both Bowzer and Dwayne. We'll bring them back up for a few questions before I move into the meat of the matter. So Susan is going to call on people, so she'll give you the instructions, and we'll bring up Dwayne and Bowzer for any questions you might have.
Thank you. This has been a fantastic part of the program, and here's your opportunity to ask questions. So you can raise your hand if you're on the Zoom by pressing the icon that says raise hand, or if you're coming in by telephone, press *9. Okay, we're going to start off. It looks like, Jeffrey, you have your hand up first. Please unmute. You're the first to ask a question.
My question is, because we're doing more than just California, is the Progressive Caucus Alliance worth spending effort and time with for CARA? That's my question.
A little unclear. You mean the Progressive Caucus in Congress?
Well, there is a progressive, Democratic progressive effort going on that's doing a lot of, should we say, around the states in a lot of other houses. I've not seen the progressive movement that much in California. And since we're focused here as California, I'm wondering, whether there's an effort CARA should reach out and make a better effort at getting them to likewise encourage, support effort through there.
They're well aware. We're all allies. So the bottom line is we're all allies. We don't always agree on every single thing, but this focus and CARA's focus, which is critically important, is really on the swing races, the ones that are really going to make the difference. It's much less on which super progressive person is going to come out of a primary. But we, like at Social Security Works, we work very closely, for instance, with the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, that's been around for years. And we all work very closely with the Progressive Caucus in Congress, like every day. So we are all connected with each other. We all realize that we can't get anywhere without having the gavel. And this is something that you guys really should internalize, that the most important thing with getting any of our values actually enacted into law is having the gavel. Without the gavel, we are subject to Mike Johnson's agenda, whatever he is willing to bring to the floor on the House of Representatives, and it ain't going to be anything that we want. So gavel first.
Next question from Mary Helen Barrow.
Hola, everybody. Hey, Bowzer, great to see you again. It's been a while since you've been here in Bakersfield. Anyway, my concern is that we're not paying enough attention to the limited English speakers. Kern County area is predominantly Latino when it comes to the community of color. Bakersfield is like 70% Latino. And limited English speakers are a critical part of the voting bloc, and we don't pay enough attention to them. So I'd be very happy. I'm a native Spanish speaker. Whatever we can do, I'd be happy to help CARA, not only here in Bakersfield, but across the board. We really need to reach out to this critical voting bloc. Latinos vote. They know what it's like to be oppressed, okay? Most of our families come from oppressed countries. So we really can get that vote out, and it's critical. And a lot of us are abuelitos y abuelitas, so we need to get that senior Latino vote out.
Especially in that 22nd district, Mary Helen, as you know, there really is for whoever is going to oppose Valadeo, we really do have a big registration advantage. The issue is turnout, right, Dwayne?
We do, but I'm worried that Melissa coming in at the last minute is going to split that vote. Rudy has paid the dues and he's been there a long time. I love Melissa, okay, but she's gonna cost us that race. I really believe that.
Excuse me, everybody. This is a time for question and answers. It really is not a time for a statement. That's what we all are professionals at doing. But right now we have this great opportunity to ask John Bowzer, Bauman, Dwayne Kemp, any questions that you might have about what was just discussed. So thank you so much, Mary Helen. I absolutely love you and all that you do. Michelle Krug, you are up next. You can go ahead and speak, Michelle Krug. You have your hand raised.
Sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, and then next up is Laura Jofu. Hi, Laura.
Hi, I'm with Working America, have been with Working America since 2017 as a volunteer. And I now live in Southern California, so I am trying to bring Working America to Southern California, maybe even like the Central Valley. They won't be canvassing, but I'm hoping they will do a digital letter writing program. So my question is, of those districts that are over 50% age over 50% over age 55, is CARA going to be targeting more than just its members? Is it going to go beyond its members and target the senior vote in your priority districts?
The short answer is absolutely. That's the entire point and intention of this campaign. And I don't want to jump ahead because I know Jody's going to take us through the particulars. But this is a senior to senior voter engagement campaign. So we're going to be recruiting, hopefully all of you as volunteers, to be adopting a list of senior voters in these 5 districts. So again, I don't want to get too far ahead of the program, but to answer your question, absolutely. We need to contact as many seniors as we can in all of these districts. And one final point on Mary Helen, who raised a phenomenal point, and one that we are consciously thinking about how do we integrate that into our campaigns, reaching out not only in Congressional District 22, but also District 13. How do we reach out to the Spanish-speaking voting population, especially those who fall within our senior vote bracket? And the short of it is, the more capital we can raise for this campaign, the more tools we can employ. And there is absolutely the potential for us to reach those voters and to design a segment of this campaign that reaches Spanish-speaking voters in those 2 districts. But it's all about how much we can raise to really bolster this campaign. I don't want to get too far ahead of the program, but Mary Helen is an excellent point, something we have been thinking about at CARA. And with your help in bringing in the resources necessary, we can do it.
Actually, I have one more follow-up question, and that is, will CARA be targeting the union retiree seniors? Because there are a whole bunch of union retirees that are not part of CARA. So is that going to be a focus, or how are you going to be able to target the over 55-year-olds? And maybe Jody's going to cover that. Yeah, go ahead.
The short answer is yes, Jody's going to cover that, and absolutely.
And seniors are always voters and always volunteers. I put that in the chat. They're going to show up. There was a question in the chat, which I think is a good one, that, yes, seniors often do vote against their own self-interest. We must fix that. They're all going to show up. So they're all important. And the persuadable ones, we must persuade. And I have a lot of experience with CARA over the years. CARA is probably the best organization in the whole country at persuading those people who sort of flop around in the middle of the electorate. That's why I'm here. And California is the most important state in this election, along with New York. So we have a lot of responsibility in this one. Do it.
Hey, we have run out of time for question and answer in this segment, but we will have another question and answer segment after the next part of the program. If you have questions, you can also write your questions in the chat so that we can get back to you, or one of our specialists here can get back to you to give you a good answer. So I'm going to take your hands down now, and Dwayne Camp, I think we're ready to go.
All right, we are ready to go. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Bowzer, for your leadership and energy and passion. I don't know how you do it. But we have an echo here. Not sure what that is, but Jody, you're on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. Some of you are veterans of our senior vote program, which we started in 2018 for that amazing election where we were very successful. And so we've done this program during midterms as well as presidential years, where obviously the turnout is much greater than during the midterms. And so we've been kind of refining our plan and our program, but the gist of the senior vote program, just to remind all of you who've done it before and some of our newcomers here, is that our audience are voters who are over the age of 60, who vote regularly, regardless of party. We are not calling Democratic voters per se. Democratic voters are getting millions of calls from Democratic groups, urging them to turn out. And for our folks, the older folks, they're the most likely to turn out. They're what people call habitual voters. So we use lists that are, there may be some Dems in the list, some Republicans in the list, but the bulk of the list that we pull from voter files are no party preference or decline to state. And the thing that we do differently is that we are doing persuasion calls and postcards and letters. This is not a one and done kind of phone bank. This is every person who signs up to be a senior ambassador. That's what we call you. And we hope every one of you signs up, and that you get at least one more person that is in your club or in your family or your next door neighbor to also sign up. Our goal, it says on your agenda, 250. That's minimum, because the more people we recruit to call and be a senior ambassador, the more people we can reach. And so just to give you an idea of our program, well, first of all, the lists. As you all know, we're very connected to the California Labor Federation. We're kind of the retiree arm, so to speak. And so obviously, when they do their work to make phone calls and get out the vote calls, they are focusing on people who are union members. And their message is a union message. All of these lists that I'm going to talk about and that the Labor Fed uses and many of the groups use, people ask about this all the time. They're all voter lists from Registrar of Voters. And some organizations, the Labor Fed is one of them, but there are many other, have taken those lists and done deep dives into them to try and create the most likely folks who will vote and who will be willing to listen to our message and who meet other target characteristics. Our main characteristics is over 60, but they're regular voters. They've voted in the last several elections. They voted not just on candidate issues, but they always vote on propositions. And you can really dive into and target the lists based on who you're really trying to reach. So right now we are in the process of refining our list development, buying lists with certain targets, and the Labor Fed is going to help us. And to answer Laura Joe's question, they are going to, if we want them, and we do, they're going to give us in these districts the over 60 retired union members, which we can add to our overall list. So we are very coordinated with them and with other unions to put together the best list. And one of the things that those of you who have done this before, I know, have been frustrated with is how poor the phone numbers are on these lists. Because for our folks especially, they're probably the worst, because many of us, I'm in this demographic too, registered to vote 40, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we still live in the same place. And when we registered to vote, there was no such thing as a cell phone. So the numbers that are listed, often for our older voters, are landlines. You can't text to a landline. But the other reality, and this is for everybody, I mean, my, younger sons and everybody, is that we have been bombarded with spam and scams, seniors especially, getting marketing calls, trying to get us to buy our burial site or, this kind of insurance, or I don't know. And so many people have chosen to not answer their phone, whether it's on a landline or a cell phone, if they don't recognize the number. So, we've added things like postcarding and texting and emailing to make sure we reach these folks. And the key other thing that is way different than any other voter education program that I know of is that if you sign up to be a senior ambassador, you are going to get a list of 100 names. And that is your list through the duration of the election season. You will postcard. We're going to try robo-texting. We're trying to get lists with more information, which you have to pay for. So we have to raise a bunch of money, because if you want to have a list that's been updated with more recent phone numbers or possibly emails, there are groups that have been working on doing that, but they've had to put a lot of energy into looking those up through other ways because they're not asked, or they weren't asked for on the original registration forms for older voters. So we have to add that to the list by looking them up in other ways. We want to have as many tools to reach these folks as possible. So each senior vote ambassador, that's what we're going to call you. You now are an official ambassador. Once you sign up, we'll get your list, and you're going to keep that list because you can write notes about what happened when you called or talked to them, what you want to focus on in your next call, etc. All those people are going to be invited to a candidate forum that we're hosting in each of those districts, where the top 2 candidates who win in the primary will be invited to come, and maybe some other races as well. It's not like that's the only race people in your area are going to be focused on. There's the state legislative races, there's local races, and of course there's going to be probably a slew of state ballot measures, which we want to talk to people about. And on ballot measures, just so you know, we do take positions on the ballot measures. We are able to take positions on issues in legislation. We are not set up organizationally to endorse. That's a different thing. But also it gives us the opportunity to say, it doesn't matter what party you are in. What does matter is that we vote for programs that we depend upon, and for someone who's going to be sure to support those programs and not continually vote, like many of these folks have, for privatization and elimination of the very programs that help us live longer and with some security. So our senior vote program is officially going to kick off once well, right now, our priority is recruiting at least 250 ambassadors. You can pick the district you want to work in out of the 5 that we've mentioned, but if you live in an area that does not have a target district, and more likely than not is going to vote for somebody and already has an incumbent who has voted well on our issues. I live in San Francisco, and I know this is a controversial topic for many San Franciscos, but Nancy Pelosi is going to win the race in San Francisco. And she has voted well on these issues and helped us move that agenda forward. And that is not a congressional race that is going to be worth our senior vote energy. It's not going to change anything there. But I want to take back the House with people who are going to support these issues. So I'm going to work on one of the other 5 districts that needs our help. In addition to the people who live in those districts taking more than likely a list in their own district, they're going to have other responsibilities. You know, we're not going to limit our outreach and education just to the people on our lists. We'll do other phone banking. We'll do outreach and bring, we do a scorecard and show people the difference between the 2 candidates and what their positions are on the issues that we care about. So we're going to share those with folks at senior centers and senior housing and farmers markets and wherever we can go. So the ground team are our cats. The rest of us are supporting the cats by taking a list and getting other people to take a list. So we're going to start our official congressional outreach in March after the primary, when we know for sure who the candidates are. And we will, if you sign up, you'll get a list. You'll get mailing labels of those people on the list, because the first step is postcards, introducing yourself to the people on your list. So this is a relational thing. They're going to see your name, hear your voice, see CARA's logo over the course of the election season. And you won't have to do stuff every single day, unless you want to. And we'll have stuff that you can do. But, the first couple months, we're going to be focusing on postcarding. Then we're going to be making our first calls to make sure people got the postcard and introduce them to you. Then we're going to be sending the scorecard and our slate card on the ballot measures. Those come together with finally the invitation to the September candidate event. All the candidate events are going to be in September. We want to do them not too soon, but close enough to when the ballots are going to be mailed, so that people will have all this in their mind. And we're still deciding how we're going to do those forms, virtually, in person, whatever. I mean, that's one of the things we'll be working on over the course of this season. We are doing a few candidate forms based on what the CAT wants to do in February, where there are races, not just congressional, but maybe some local races, where what happens in the primary is going to be very determinant in who winds up in the November election, in state races as well as congressional, and maybe some local races. But our senior vote program is officially focused on Congress. So I kind of went through, what we're going to do and kind of the time frame. So between today and March, when is it? March 5th, which is the primary, we have to raise money and buy our lists and organize our lists and recruit volunteers to be an ambassador. That's our focus right now. And so I wanted to have one of our staff put in the chat the link for the form to sign up to be an ambassador. For those of you who can't access the chat or just don't want to do it right now and want to do it later, you can find this form. It was sent to you as an attachment with the email for today's event, the one that came from California Alliance, so that you can, fill it out and either mail it in or email your information. We need your name, we need your address so we can send you the list itself and some of the other materials and instructions that you'll need. But we have about 25, I think, to 30, maybe a few more recently, folks who have already signed up. We got a long way to go, folks. And remember, the more people who sign up, the more people we can reach. That's the math. And we have done this senior to senior. So basically you say in your first postcard of introduction, my name is Jody Reed, and I am a senior just like you. And I'm really concerned about this election. And we have a script. You can use our script. You can edit the script if it's a little too long or not long enough for you, but it has to fit on a postcard. And you sign your name. And if you're willing to give your email or your phone number to the people you're writing, do it. We've have dozens of examples of people who have volunteered, who have been contacted by the voters they're reaching out to. One example, I don't know if Myrtle's on the call today, but I didn't see her name. But one example, she's one of our board members who lives in Richmond, California. And she was writing to to a list that was not in her area. And she signed her name Myrtle Braxton, at the time 93 years old, which now she's 95. And several people were so impressed who received her postcard that a 95-year-old person cared enough to write a personal note saying, we want to be part of talking about the election, that we just wanted to say thank you. People are paying attention to this, and folks in our demographic, they look forward to the mail, but the mail is super expensive. So we have to really pace ourselves on what we're going to mail and what we're going to do by phone or by text or by email, because we just don't have the resources like some of these candidates do to just stuff people's mailbox every day with another campaign brochure. So we've done this enough, and we know what the difficulties are with some of these lists, that we're doing as much as we can to try and buy better lists, more cleaned up lists. Those cost money. So we're also asking folks who have resources to make a donation. You can go to the CARA website, californiaalliance.org, to donate, to find this form to sign up if you haven't been able to access it some other way. To go to the chat. I don't know if the link got put in the chat, but if someone on staff can do that, it would be really helpful. So you can just download it right now. So I just want to see everybody who thinks they're willing to be a senior ambassador in one of these districts, raise your hand right now. Or shake your hands on screen, or put your hand up using the raise hand. Yes, more. We need more. Everybody, raise your hand if you're going to do this. I want to see everybody's hand. Yes. We need you. California needs you. Our siblings in these districts really need you, and the United States needs you. We have got to take back this country. If we want to win on any of our issues, as BOWZER or whoever said, we need to have the gavel. And I will say this, even though I hate the idea of even mentioning it, but God forbid we wind up with that man whose name I'm not going to mention, but you all know who I'm talking about. There's a bunch of trials going on about him right now. We have to have a firewall, because what if the worst thing happens, which I am not predicting and I'm not even suggesting, but there has to be a way to make sure we don't lose our democracy. We have to have that firewall. And if we want to if the incumbent wins, we have to have a strong enough Congress to help enact positive legislation. So no matter what, this congressional race needs every one of you. And I urge you to find at least one other person and get them to sign up. This is the month to do it, so that we can get you all situated on our senior ambassador list, get our calling list together, send you the stuff. So after the primary, you can get started. And we will send regular notification to all of you when phase 1, the postcarding, is over and we move into the next phase. And we'll talk about how you can do calls. We're going to do predictive dialing systems, which make it much easier to reach somebody, as well as other, if you want to just use your own phone and call you on your own time, you're welcome to do it. But we're going to have other systems to make it easier and more successful. We're going to try to do some texting. So this is a big deal. And this is going to be the bulk of our work this year, and we really need you to be a part of it. So if everybody could take their hands down right now, because we're going to move on to questions. We're going to be ending this in about a few minutes. So now's the time for those of you, especially those who didn't get a chance the last time to ask a question, to raise your hand. So hopefully we can answer them. So Susan, you're on mute, Susan.
Fantastic. So hopefully those of you have lowered your hands now, and the hands that are going up, and you can see those hands in your box, are the hands of folks that have some questions. And we're going to begin the question and answer portion with Sarah Cleveland. If you could unmute, please, Sarah.
How much you talk about buying lists, updated lists that are going to help us do a better job? How much do those lists cost?
It depends on what we
Ballpark figure?
we're budgeting and estimating that it could be up to $20,000.
Yikes.
To get all the lists the way we want them. But we're also looking for some in-kind support, people who already have lists that we could use. Like I mentioned, the Labor Fed, they're already buying lists and creating lists, and they're union member lists. But we've already talked to them about getting the over 60 folks from their list and sending them to us, the decline to state folks, the target group that we're really zooming in on, so we can augment whatever lists that we get centrally with their list. So in cases like that, it will reduce the overall cost, but it's not cheap. And thanks to some of you already who have been making contributions, we've gotten a couple substantial contributions to help us with these lists. So
But I will make a substantial contribution.
Thank you. Money. Thank you. We really need it. We also have to pay for postcards. And this, in the past, we've sent everybody 100 stamps, which are 60 cents each for a postcard stamp, if you didn't know that, or not 60 cents. I think they're like 45 cents, but they went up.
They went up in January.
And this year, we're on the form, it says, if you are able to provide the stamps yourself, I don't know if that's on the form, but if you're able, let us know that. because every time someone does their own mailing, it saves us, 40 some plus dollars. But we know lots of folks, that's a big chunk. So if you need the stamps, we're sending them to you. We just want you to do the postcards. Okay.
Next up is Connie Chu. You need to unmute, Connie.
Hi there. I just actually tried to submit the form, and I put it in the chat too, but I tried to do it online and it froze. And the other weird thing that happened is when I put in all my information, it did not ask me which region I want to adopt. But then after I submitted it the first time for the preview shows up as empty on the region district I wish to adopt. So I wasn't sure if there was something I'm missing or.
I don't know. To tell
And
you.
now it's still spinning, so it's just not going through for some reason.
All right, we'll have to fix that.
Okay.
So for those people who have been having this problem, and if that continues, just know attached where you've got your agenda for today is the form. And if you're having trouble doing it online, just print out that form. Fill it out on your computer if you have that capacity, but you can also just print it out, fill it out, and either mail it in, or if you have the capacity to scan it and send it in, whatever works for you. We take any kind of money and any type of communication that works for you. So if it's easier to just print it out, fill it out, put it in an envelope and send it to us, go for it.
Okay,
it will
we'll
also
do.
be on our website, so you can use it there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next person up is David Mendel. If you could unmute, please. There you go. Huh?
I did. Hi, Jody, we spoke about being able to make an announcement. Is now an okay time, or is that after the
No,
questions?
could you wait till after, just so that we can stay on?
Sure. Okay. I heard you say we're ending in a few minutes, so I didn't want to miss
We
out.
will have a time for an announcements.
That's great.
Right
Thank you.
before we end.
That's fine. Thanks.
And Cynthia, who's almost all of you will know her name because you get a lot of emails from her. But she just texted me and said, because so many people are right now trying to fill out the form, it's, clogging up the system. So if you download the form, click on that and then save it into your computer and do it later, there won't be so many people all trying at the same time. Okay. All right.
Next up is Cynthia Kanabi.
Oh, hi. Yes, I've been doing a lot of postcarding with Indivisible Marin. And what I have done is I have picked up all the postcards, and then I have a postcard party at my house. So I've been able to do like 300. So just get your friends involved, even if they just do 10. You invite 10 friends, that's 100 postcards. And they're usually willing to do more. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Marinelle Daniel.
Yes, my question is, I have a friend who's willing to write postcards, but doesn't want to make phone calls. So can I make phone calls for her?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thanks, Jody.
Next up is Phyllis Johnson. Phyllis, you'll need to unmute, please. Phyllis, are you able to come on to the audio? Okay, while we're waiting for Phyllis, let's go to Cheryl McKinney. Cheryl.
Yeah. Hi there. Hi, everyone. I'm new to CARA. There were 3 questions, but I've been dialoguing in the chat with Mr. Bauman, and it looks to me like CD3 is going to stay a target, even though I'm not sure. I'm not sure about spending resources on it, but it's worth a try, I guess. The other 2 questions. First, did you do a statistical analysis of your outreach in 2022? I'm curious, what the voting rate was among the people that you contacted. And if you did an analysis, where could we read that? So that's the first question. And then the second question is, do you have a numerical goal for how many voters you want to reach this time around?
So we don't have a statistical analysis overall of the people we contacted and how they voted.
Well, we don't know. We never know how they voted. You just know if they voted or not.
Yes, we have. I mean, we should do that. We haven't really done like a entire analysis of how many people on our list actually voted. That takes some time to be able to put that together after the election's over and compare. But we will do, I mean, it would be great to do that. That would be moving forward, people would really want to know that. But again, remember, we are targeting regular voters. So we know, I mean, these are people who have voted in like the last many elections, and they're not going to stop voting just because for this election.
So you're not targeting inconsistent voters?
No, we're only targeting habitual voters.
Why target them?
Why? Because we're trying to change how they vote and who they vote for based on the issues.
But you don't know who they voted for. But anyway, okay.
Well, if they're, yeah, but we know what percentage of older voters are registered Democrats and Republicans and decline to state. And we have flipped these districts based on that very same electorate with a different outcome. So something's different has happened. So we are making some assumptions here. And I forget your second question.
It was, do you have a numerical goal of?
Yes, sorry, yes, that we do. That we do. We want to at least, this is on the low end, the very conservative end, have a senior contacting a voter, at least 5,000 of those contacts in each of the 5 districts. So that's 25,000 personally contacted voters. Then we're going to do other phone banking and outreach.
Did you say 25,000 voters per district?
No, 5,000 per district.
5,000 per district.
But beyond, in the senior to senior effort, and then more through our others.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we have one more question. One more question. We have a hand raised by Keith.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to make 2 quick comments because of what was asked. Polling on 2022, the senior vote was typically more red, and it's gone, actually AARP over 65 had this over 65 vote blue, but some of the other polling had it still red, but shortening the gap. And I think a lot of it has to do with Social Security and Medicare. So what we hear about in terms of the national talking points on women's right to choose for seniors, I know Medicare and Social Security resonate really well, and we know where we stand on that issue and those that we're supporting. Second, real quickly, I believe stamps are going to increase on January 21st. So if we're going to get forever stamps, folks that are doing postcards and stuff, I believe it would be good to get it within the next week. Otherwise, you're going to probably spend 1 or 2 cents more per stamp. And the third is my question. So sorry, Susan, I took so long to get to the question. But the question ends up being, since we're doing this communication, is there a way for us to hear some of the best practices as we go along, kind of a CARA chat room of what's working as we evolve?
Yeah, I envision, though we don't have this scheduled yet, but once we have all of our volunteers recruited, we'll try to do, quarterly, or I don't know how often, it depends how often it's needed, Zoom meetings with the volunteers. So we can hear, like, how did the postcarding go? And once we start making phone calls or sending emails or doing text, what messages are working? what have you found to be the most successful, so that we can share that information, because we're doing a lot of this, from our own home, unless you organize like a postcard writing party, which is a great idea. But we'll do some parties or some meetings with all of you who volunteer, so that we can keep improving our message and hear how others are doing, because there's always better ways. Sometimes people come up with like the perfect thing to say in 20 seconds, and we all want to try to make these effective. So we'll learn from each other as we get started. We'll start everybody off with some sample raps that you can then try and refine as you're making your calls, so that it can be from you. But the most impressive thing that we found, and we have gotten feedback from, is the fact that you are a particularly trustworthy communicator, because you have a lot of the same concerns and priorities as the people who you are going to be talking with. And so that makes you relatable. And we're doing relational organizing here. We're doing persuasion organizing in many cases, not just a get out the vote call. It's a very different way of encouraging people to look deeper before they make their decision. So it takes some time to do it, but it's also been proven, and this is true across many organizations doing different kinds of work, not just campaign work, but legislative work. Relational organizing is lasting organizing. And not only are we building to a successful outcome on the vote, but we're potentially building a member of CARA or a participant, someone who will continue seeing you and us as a reliable and trustworthy source on a whole variety of issues, not just election issues. All right, I think that's it. And I know, Dee, we have a couple of things to just round out this meeting, including announcements, and then we're going to see BOWZER to send us off. So Dee, you're back up.
Great, thank you. That was quite a bit of information, and I'm hoping that it inspires everyone here to become an ambassador and to reach out to your friends or other organizations to be ambassadors and to participate in this election. And we have I want to ask everyone to also keep your eyes open for forums, our Fabulous Friday forums. We plan to have at least one a month. And Jody, just regarding the feedback for how the campaign is going, we are planning on having our this committee, the committee for the senior vote committee, at least once a month, maybe more. That might be the place to have our feedback and input.
Good idea.
Yeah, because that's already planned. So. And I think I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dee Rosario. I hail from Oakland. I'm the co-convener for the Alameda Cat, and I am chairing this committee. So we will be going forth from here. So fabulous. Any final announcements before we adjourn?
I know we have two, one from David and one from Jennifer, and then we'll go to BOWZER.
Great. So David.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me do this. I just put a written version in the chat so you can save the address. I am a longtime CARA member and former director of the Senior Legal Hotline, which many of you may have used if you were old enough back then. I've been out of that for a while. I appreciate that the highest priority is to save Democratic seats and try to flip some of the Republican ones. But I think there's also some real value in trying to get actual progressive Democrats in office to replace corporate Democrats who don't support single payer healthcare, who vote for all the wars, and so on. And I am running in Congressional District 7 against one of those. It's a solidly Democratic district, so there's no danger of splitting the vote and electing a Republican or anything. In fact, the only other candidate in the race is an unknown Republican who's not trying very hard. So we think this is really viable, and I hope that to get support from some of you, I put it in the chat with the website where you can take a look and see what you think of it. Let me know, and maybe even donate, because we think it's very much politically viable. We need to help make it logistically viable by getting some support so we can actually afford to campaign. We'll never have nearly as much as the incumbent, but we definitely going to make a race of it. And just one interesting comment, we're certainly aiming to go to appeal to the frequent voters, as Jody mentioned, which includes a lot of seniors. We vote more than others, but we are also really making a point of going to infrequent voters, younger voters, new voters, people who came out maybe for the first time or two and voted for Bernie Sanders and then got discouraged. So we're really mapping the precincts to go after them. So anybody who's in the Sacramento area and can help us do outreach, that would also be great. There's, of course, the donate button and also a volunteer button on the website. That's it for my announcement. Thanks, Jody, for allowing me to do it. If anybody has questions, you can reply to me in the chat or through the website. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, David. I think I see one other hand.
Jennifer.
Or two. Jennifer, go ahead.
Yes, hello. My name is Jennifer Ross. I'm a domestic policy advisor for Bianca for San Francisco, and that was a great lead-in that David Mandel gave us. Bianca Von Krieg is running against Nancy Pelosi. Mother Jones called her the AOC of the West Coast, and much to young Jody's chagrin, she is most likely going to win the primary, and here's why. The normal Republican perennial guy is just out, and he did it at the last minute, so they're kind of scrambling for people. And Bianca actually has a good relationship with him since she's reached out to them before on issues like Green New Deal and universal basic income, which shifts the burden of caring for the individual from the employer to society, which is big for small business in San Francisco. We hire and train at-risk BIPOC youth from the Huntersville Bay Point area and around the world. We have 500 people working for us around the world, from Kyoto to Istanbul. So every $500 we get, we can train, about 30 at-risk youth one Saturday. Our links are biancaforsanfrancisco.org. We'll put them in the chat. But, please sign up, please give. And it is so progressive. It is so important to have progressives in office, just like David said, because they're the people who are making real change. If you're any kind of minority, you owe any kind of political traction that you now have to the progressive movement. It didn't come that way through conservative people. It came that way from progressives. We hope that you support us, and it's time for a change. And look, I want to say something to the people
Julie, we need to move on. This is not the time for a partisan debate. So I really want to move on. So let's let the next person speak.
Okay.
And I think that's Neva.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the meeting, but I'm Neva Parker. I'm the candidate for Assembly District 5, and I just want to thank CARA for choosing it as one of the target districts. And I'll be very quick because I know you guys have been on for a very long time, but I just, again, want to say thank you and to say that the campaign is here and excited to get working and flipping this district. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Dee, you can close us out with BOWZER.
Great. So thank you all very much. And then we will bring back the BOWZER.
Thanks, Dee. And yes.
Welcome.
You're muted.
Oh, somehow you got muted. BOWZER, you got muted.
I know it says the host muted me by accident.
Oh, I don't know why that happened, but go ahead.
I'm back. I'm back with this big and diverse community that has a lot of interests, all of them in the right direction. I do applaud CARA though for knowing what its strength is and doing something that not enough organizations do, which is to try to deal with that persuadable bunch of seniors that flop around in the middle of every election. I'm going to share one thing to you before I sing us out, which is because this even, I'm vice chair of the DNC Seniors Council. I got to go on 2 separate events with Tony Fabrizio, the Trump's pollster, and John Anzalone, Biden's pollster, after the 2020 election. And you wouldn't believe that these two people would agree on anything, but they agreed on one thing. And the thing that they agreed on was that the difference in the 2020 election was in the seniors in the battleground states. And I wish I could play this back for you. It was freaking amazing that Hillary Clinton actually lost seniors in the battleground states by 13 points, and Joe Biden lost seniors in the battleground states by 5 points. And both pollsters of both candidates agreed that that was the difference in the 2020 election. And, you know, this is post-election. This is not predicting. This is what happened. And you know, it's an amazing thing that it really does end up being about seniors in every big election. Yes, it's about turnout. Yes, it's about young people. Yes, it's about other things too. But it's tremendously about seniors and making sure that we get, you know, we don't necessarily have to win them. 2018, we came within 1 point. I know Jody knows this, 50 to 49, you know, nationwide. But we don't necessarily have to win them, but we do have to cut the margins of older voters who vote bizarrely on social issues and stuff like that. For California, it's going to be about the House. We are the most important state, along with New York, in the country with regard to the House. So Jody and I agreed, you know, you probably all remember Good Night, Sweetheart. Well, it's time to go from the end of the Shannon television show, a song originally done by the Spaniels. We had a discussion about, okay, who are we going to say it's time for them to go? And our decision was this. Do, 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 do. Good night, Mike Johnson. Well, it's time to go. Do, 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 do. Good night, Mike Johnson. Well, it's time to go. Do, 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 do. Don't hate to leave you, but we really must say good night, Mike Johnson. Good night. Do, 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 do. Good night, Mike Johnson. Good night. Do, 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 do. Good night, Mike Johnson. Your own caucus of Republicans might actually get rid of you. But at the end of 2024, let's replace him with somebody who's good on Social Security and Medicare. Pleasure being here with all of you. Good night, and Grease for peace.
Bye, everybody. Happy New Year. Let's get to work.
Stay safe and healthy, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Stay well, Jody.
Bowser. Right on, brother, right on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Bye.